Today I'm going to show you how I made this lamp right over here using 3D printed materials, some leftover walnut scraps, a few electronics, and some other very special to me parts. You see, to me, this is way more than just some office accessory. This lamp is a memory of my friend Brad that passed away last year. So while this might just look like a cool lamp to you, for me, it's a way of preserving some things that will always be on permanent display here in my office and in my life. So this lamp starts like any other project, but with a twist. The model I created has two components that must be in this project. One is a Mac Mini, but this isn't just some old computer I decided to put off a shelf. This is Brad's old computer that I decided to pull off the shelf. Brad never really had a need for super high-end computing, and I think if I didn't occasionally drop an old computer in his lap, he'd just keep plugging along with whatever he had laying around. That's how he ended up with this Mac Mini in the first place. It was a hand-me-down, but he was happy with it, and I was happy for him to have it. As a computer, this thing's pretty useless for me, but as a custom lampshade, it can live forever. So I started out by hollowing out Brad's Mac Mini and figured out how to press fit a 3D printed mount into the back of it. This is a super tight fit, and getting the angles right was nearly impossible. But after a little bit of kind of heavy-handed sander work, I got it all to fit, and it looks pretty good. Also, it's not coming out of there. Believe me, I tried. Second, in the uprights that hold up the Mac Mini lampshade is a ring made from a silver dollar. This was Brad's silver dollar. Well, at least he thought it was a silver dollar. It ends up, it's actually a counterfeit. I found that out after sending it over to an amazing guy named Terry at a company called Silver State Foundry. Silver State Foundry takes coins and turns them into jewelry. So I sent Brad's silver dollar to Terry to make it into a ring for me. But Terry called me shortly after he received it and told me that the Morgan silver dollar was a counterfeit. He even offered to make me another ring for free if I could source a new silver dollar, but that's not really the point of the ring. So I decided just to keep this one. Bottom line, I can't wear the ring. It's made of nickel and causes an allergic reaction on my skin. So this is where it's gonna live forever. The design captures the ring in this little cutout and the light shines on it whenever the lamp's on. So those are the required parts. All the rest is just me trying to figure out how to make something that looks good and then display those two very important pieces. As usual, it seems easy on paper and takes way longer in real life. One of the challenges of the 3D printed parts of this lamp is the base. When I first started designing the lamp, I made the base smaller, but it looked super goofy and out of proportion. So naturally, I just decided to make it bigger and a little more rectangular. The problem with the larger base is that it's actually larger than my print bed in one of the directions. So the way that I'm working around that is to print it at a 45-degree angle. The base itself is actually two parts that make it a hollow shell. The bottom part is pretty thick and chunky, and printing that at 45 degrees was no big deal. I printed it on the first try and it actually turned out great. The top of the shell, however, was a different story. Since it's really thin, well, here, I'll just show you.
Those swirls, I don't know what the deal is with that, but it doesn't matter. It's all right. Yeah, I don't know. It looks weird. I finally got some weird stuff in this. It's because I didn't put enough supports along the back, and this is too flexible. The printer was pushing on it. So here's the deal. I'm gonna keep this because it does fit, and then if I really don't like it and it really bothers me, then I'll reprint it with more supports. So after saying all that, I decided to reprint it anyway. This time I used a lot more support to stop it from wobbling, and it worked out pretty good. After getting all the plastic parts out of the way, it was onto the wood and the electronics. If you saw my last video, you know that I had some leftover walnut, so I decided to use that for the uprights on the back of the lamp. And these wood pieces serve two primary purposes. One, they make the lamp look like it's not just a cheap plastic toy I made. And two, it provides the actual support to hold up the relatively heavy Mac Mini that's up on top as the lampshade. I designed all the surrounding 3D printed parts with holes so I could attach the wood with screws, and the wood would just slot into the hollow spaces on both sides, on the top and the bottom. Additionally, the center plastic upright would not only display the ring I mentioned before, but also provide a space to run the wiring from the base
to the lampshade. So cutting these wood uprights ended up being way more challenging than I originally expected. I needed to cut away enough of the wood so they would slot into the supports, and essentially had to fit perfect or there would be a really weird looking gap on the sides or on the top. To accomplish this, I used the table saw and slowly cut slices of the wood away until I had it just right. After getting all the pieces right, I was able to sand the wood, then use my hand router to put a rounded edge on the outside edges of the pieces of wood. I really wish that I could say that I purposely designed the plastic part with a corner radius that matched my router bit, but that was actually just luck. I was prepared to go buy a router bit if I had to, but the one that I had literally was an exact match, so it really just worked out really well. After all the cutting, I applied some Rubio monocoat finish to the wood and let it dry overnight. Then I used the drill press to pre-drill the screw holes. I was then able to do a dry fit and see how well it worked. Not too bad, right? The last 3D printed piece I needed was a light diffuser to cover the base of the Mac Mini. I took some measurements from the original plastic base that was on the computer in the first place and recreated it in Fusion. I then printed it in clear PETG. I ended up printing this twice because the first time was too thick and it blocked a lot of the light. The second time worked out great and I was able to get it attached to the lamp and see how it looks. All right, finally, the electronics. So I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but there is a second purpose for this lamp. The reason that the base is flat and square like this is because it's going to double as a soldering station for my electronics projects. I've had this large set of magnetic helping hands and a light with a magnetic base for a while now. It's a great soldering station, but takes a lot of space on my desk. So my plan is to build the metal base into this lamp and wire the magnetic light into the lamp as well. If that doesn't make any sense, you'll see what I mean in a minute when I get it all wired up. For the lampshade, I had some leftover LED strips from another project, and that was just enough to cram into the Mac Mini and make a lamp. I cut the LED strip into multiple pieces and wired them in series so I didn't have to try to bend the strip around the tight corners. I then attached the LEDs to the inside of the Mac using the double-sided tape that came on the strips. And I kind of decided a while ago that I won't make any type of lighting project unless it's going to be connected to my smart home and I can control it through Home Assistant and with my phone. For this lamp, I'm going to be controlling both lights with an ESP32 and ESPHome. And in keeping with the leftover parts theme of this project, I had a MOSFET as well as a relay from a previous project and decided to use those for providing power to the lights. The magnifier is controlled by a relay, so it just has a simple on and off. The lampshade, however, is controlled by a MOSFET, so I can dim the LED using a pulse width modulation and the ESP32. I have a couple other videos related to these topics, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here. The links are in the description, and they should be showing up in the corner of the screen in just a second. Now, believe it or not, I actually did buy one thing for this project. Well, actually, two things. The buttons on the front. These buttons are the power buttons for the lights, and they're also wired into the ESP32 controller. So technically, these buttons can control anything in my smart home, but for right now, they're going to control both the lights. After all that wiring and a little ESPHome configuration, it was time to put the whole thing together. I essentially stuffed all the wiring into the hollow cavity in the base and then ran the wires through the center upright as well as through the necessary holes in the back and the front. I even printed these little wire grommets out of TPU to give it a more finished look. Power is all provided through a USB cable since all of this runs on 5 volts, so that was super convenient. And technically, I could run it off of a battery if I wanted to. So here's the final product. I'm so glad this thing turned out as good as it did. It's functional, it looks good, and most importantly, it's my own way of paying tribute to my friend Brad. I think if he were here, he'd like it too.